To talk to you today. My name is Katie Dykstra. I'm the Client Engagement Director at Marsh McLennan Agency. That's an insurance broker, and we do HR consulting. I've been in HR for over 20 years. Started off on the employee relations side, shout out, and then started to diversify. So I've been in Fortune 500s, startups, and had my own consulting practice before going to Marsh McLennan as a boomerang. So I used to work there. Reagan.
She loved us so much she came back to us. She just couldn't stay away. So I'm Reagan Kelly. I have been working for 30 plus years, and a big chunk of that has been in talent acquisition and human resources. I sat back years ago and looked at the thread of my life, and the common thread was people. So even though my degree's not in HR, I was pulled into it, and I think a lot of us that happens to. I was pulled into it. So my background has been in big corporate as well. I also own my own consulting firm before coming on board with MMA's National HR Consulting Services. And I have fallen in love with HR and talent acquisition, and I've been in this world for about 20 years. So thank you, everyone, for being here today. We appreciate your attention and your time.
So what we're going to talk about is what's going on current state, and then move you into what we can do to start planning for that future-ready workforce. And then talking about AI. I know it's come up a million times through this, but it's really important that we do hit on it because it is going to impact our jobs and our roles. And then moving into just taking a glance back of everything that we've dealt with since COVID's happened. And how do we start to use that to think about our workplace and how to start working without boundaries?
So the current workforce landscape, that's what we're going to look at here. First few things are these 6 trending statistics, right? This is what we're seeing out there. Some of these are just now sort of coming up front to the forefront. Some have been happening and they're just continuing to grow. But one of the first things, and I'm talking about number 1 here, is this 33% increase in mental health related issues. I think a light really got shined on that in COVID, right? When we all got turned upside down on our heads and we had to figure it out and what are we doing moving forward? And we then started thinking about what am I doing moving forward? And corporations started paying attention to it too. You know, I used to say years and years ago, if we remove the 4 walls, there's people. And we need to remember that. And I think sometimes in corporate we can forget that, or in our businesses we don't realize that. But I think that's, if anything, it's one of the good things that came out of it. I understand we have an increase in this, but we're paying attention. So it's a great aspect of what came out of it. This is interesting, and I'm one of these people that I love the gig economy, interim work. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But 35% of the global workforce is currently participating in that. That's big. 10 to 15% do it full time, and the rest are those that are using it either as secondary work, a side job, something along those lines, but they're transitioning into doing it full time, and we're going to continue to see that grow. People analytics, we use it in HR. We use it a lot, and we're going to continue to. This is an important piece, and it helps us with things like retention and turnover. And then 72% of American workers want to learn more. I love this. We're a learning organization. We love this. We want to continue to see it, and that's going to continue to trend. AI, I know. We're going to say it. We're going to say it a lot. We're going to talk about it. But it's part of it. It's part of our world now. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about, and Katie's going to go into a little bit more, is this multi-generational workforce that we have right now. It's incredible. And the benefits are also incredible.
So if you think about it right now, this is the first time that we have 6 generations in the workforce. So if you are familiar with traditionalists, they are the people before the boomers. And they're usually those people that you might see at Costco, Walmart, that are looking at your receipt and highlighting it or drawing that smiley face. But what I find really fascinating is, what generation do you think is the fastest that's coming into the workforce right now?
I think some people would say alpha, right? We know they're coming in.
Anybody think differently? I heard a couple of things. Who shouted something out? Boomers? Did I hear boomers?
She said older.
Older
Yes.
boomers, yes. So let's talk about why boomers are coming into the workforce faster than Generation Alpha. COVID happened, right? People had retirement plans and they said, I'm not retiring for another 5 years. COVID happens and they're like, I ain't working remote. I'm not working with this technology. I'm retiring a couple years early. And what happened is the succession plan that you might have had at your organization didn't take place because of these sudden retirements. And so what we're finding now is boomers are coming back into the workforce, but guess what? They're not coming to come back full time. They're coming in to work part-time. They're coming in to mentor. They're coming in to transfer the knowledge that never happened during COVID. So if we're having issues at work where we don't know where we can find someone to fit this, there might be a generation that you haven't considered that can do this part-time, that can be helpful, that does have that knowledge. We're all living longer. How many people have heard Johnny C. Taylor say the first person that's gonna live until 150 is already born? He said that in 2024. That's what he would say during his state visits to other conferences. So if that's the case, we're gonna be working a lot longer than we originally thought, and that's gonna have an impact of how we think about our workforce.
So upskilling and support for Future Ready. This is so important, and this is one of my soapboxes that I'm not really going to get on today, but you'll hear it a little bit, so I'm just warning you. How do we empower our teams? How are we making sure they have the resources they need? What are we doing for them? So here's a few things that we talk about upskilling. One of the things I love about this one, if you'll notice here, 94% of employees say they'd stay longer if their company's invested in their education and their upskilling. In talent acquisition, you know, a lot of what we hear in HR, what we hear is we can't find good talent, or they're leaving us, or we have turnover, or something's happening. One of the things that we can do to keep them there is to continue to educate them. That's an important piece of this. Transferable skills. So I talk about this a lot. There's a story I have about, this has been years ago. I was in Nashville, Tennessee, and I was in this music venue, and I'm walking down the stairs. I'm at the top of the stairs. And the bartender behind the bar is like, "What do you want?" And I'm all the way at the top, and there's a line of people in front of me. And I was like, oh. So I tell her what I want. By the time I get down there, she had it ready. I was ready to check out. And I go, "Are you happy in your job? Do you like this?" She's like, "Yeah, I do." I go, "Do you have benefits? Do you have all the things you need?" And when we talked about that a little bit more, I was like, "I have an opportunity if you want to talk to me about it." And at the time, I worked in staffing. And I was like, "You would be an amazing recruiter. You pay attention, you listen, you knew I wanted something, you knew I was coming down there to get it, and you got me before I got there." And then for the rest of the night, she remembered. We ended up hiring her. And we wouldn't have looked at her, I don't think, because we had very specific bullet points, like 47 of them. You know what those look like back in the day, right? We had a bunch of them. But she had these transferable skills that is exactly what we needed and wanted. And she, to my knowledge, is still there. And this has been about 10 years ago. So I think that's pretty incredible.
And I mean, think about it for you guys, right? Did everybody go to school here for HR? Can I have a raise of hands of people that went to school for HR? Okay. I want you to look around, it's not that many. So somehow we magically ended up in HR. There must have been some transferable skills there that worked for us.
Yeah, absolutely. The gig economy, this is another one. This is how we can support our teams. So when you think about somebody going out on leave and they're like, "But I'll check in. I don't want to leave you hanging. I don't want to burden the rest of the team," or, "I mean, I hate it. I really need to do this." And they may not because they're afraid about their job not getting done, or, you know, the worry that comes with it. So let's take that worry away. I love the gig economy. I love it, and I love the skill set that is in that economy, because a lot of people that are transferring into it are what we talked about. Some of them are that boomer generation. Some of them are very specialized in what they do. And you can get them for a moment to help and hold it together while someone's out. And then you get that, and I love this piece, you get that, why do you do it that way? And you get the curiosity around it from them because it's not their company and they come in with fresh eyes. So you can really support your team through that, which I think is incredible. Embracing AI, we'll talk about that, right? We'll talk more about it a little later, but embracing AI is very helpful too. And one of the things Katie and I talked about, so I don't know anybody in the room if you can tell me if this has ever happened or if it's just me. Have you ever written an email and then thought, I might need to walk away for a minute?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you've done it, so it's not just me. Yeah, so I've done that before, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to walk the dog. I'm going to come back in, reread this, and then I will hit send. Or I'll send it to my boss, who's in the audience, so be nice. So I have the email, and I type it all out, and then I go, oh, our company has, it's called Lin AI. It's our version of like the Chat GPT, and it can help us out. I take it, and I say, please use a professional, warm voice. Help me get my point across, be succinct, and it does. And that's helpful for me. And the other side of that is, and Katie and I talk about this, we have back-to-back calls constantly. We partner on a lot of work, and we have back-to-back calls constantly. And by 4 o'clock, I don't even think I could write an email anymore. And so it's super helpful to have that. So things like that can take that administrative stuff off your desk. That's how we can be supportive. This last one is remove the taboo, and this is sort of where I also have another soapbox I get on. So not traditional here, I didn't go into school for HR. I have a business undergrad. I have a master's in social work, which I think everybody should if you work with people, because it has taught me more about business than my business degree did. It's pretty incredible when you learn the people side of what business is. And when we have issues and when we struggle, and we talked about the mental health earlier in some of the breaks, when we remove the taboo around those of us who need some help every once in a while, it improves the work product. It improves the output. And I have a really quick story about I worked for a company. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and it's in that area, so it's over in the Midwest. They're pretty big in that region. This was 10 years ago. My mother was ill, she was in the hospital, and I wanted to be with her. And we didn't have the work from home. You know that then. It wasn't really an option. They said, we can see you're struggling, what's going on? And I was really transparent with them, and I said, this is what's going on. Here's why I'm struggling, this is what's happening. They let me work. I worked from the hospital, actually. They let me work from the hospital for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. They didn't ask me, are you getting the job done? They had, do you need anything? Can we help you? And there were days that I didn't, but then there were nights that I had to, right? So I did what I needed to do to be productive while I was there, and they did what they needed to do to support me. And I still talk about them 10 years later because it's pretty incredible. So I want to remove that taboo. I really want to take it out and just put it in a bubble and let's let it go. We need to take care of ourselves. So, Katie, are you ready?
I am.
We're going to talk about AI.
Yeah, we're going to talk about AI. And the thing that I really find interesting is when you get to be a little bit more creative and you get to go beyond Gemini, Copilot, ChatGPT. And so,
yeah.
Reagan, what do we build here?
So, you maybe have heard this before. I heard it at a conference I was at. AI may not take your job, but someone who uses AI will. I can promise you that. We all need to understand it on some level, right? So here are some softwares that I happen to really love. If you're just using ChatGPT, or for us, Lin AI, if you're using your own company version of that, you're not really using AI anymore. So there are other ways that we can use it. There are other things that we can do. Again, I'll go back to talent acquisition at the top. I love the platforms that remove biases from job description language. Those are incredible. We, again, back-to-back calls. Go down to this middle block here. The scheduling, Calendly, is like an assistant for me. It makes it so easy for those who want to get an appointment. So we work with 2 different sets of clients, really. So we've got to get one schedule, and then the other client, and 3 people on their side, and sometimes 2 on mine, and good luck. You would send 47 emails back and forth, right, trying to get that pulled together. This does it for me. We can do a survey. We can say, when is everybody available? It can schedule it. It puts it right on my calendar. I don't have to think about it. And I'm a human, and then I don't make a mistake and pick the wrong time zone. It's in there, and it's exactly where it should be.
And the cool part is most of these are free. So if you can't use it at your work, the examples that we're giving out there is for maybe when you're not at work that you can test this on your own and start to experiment so that you feel more comfortable with AI. Because it does take some learning.
Oh, it absolutely does. And I'm one of those people that I have now young adult children, and I'm never going to have them come to me and go, you didn't know that? I do know it. I have learned how to work in it, and I'm going to. One of the other ones I love, so we now are a society of we need little bits of information. You see these learning platforms, and they give you 10-second bits of knowledge. There's a lot of that. So people talk about, too, how do we get the information out? Let's do a newsletter. We've done those traditionally in HR, newsletters. Well, if you look at video creation and editing, that first one there is Descript. I happen to see them at a conference. We don't have any affiliation with any of these guys, but Descript can create a podcast fully run by AI. And it sounds so human. It's amazing. It's pretty incredible. You can say, here's the topic we want to talk about. This is what our initiative is. This is what we're launching. And then there's a podcast, and you can set the time. And you can send that out to your team members as your newsletter. They're listening instead of having to read something. We're like goldfish. We have 7 seconds, right? And then so I think that's one of the really cool ones. So this is a great list. And to Katie's point, a lot of these you do have free access to. So if your company doesn't want to spend, or if they aren't sure if they would ever utilize it, try it for free.
And then just think about your HRISs. So Reagan and I have had a lot of fun these last 2 days talking to vendors and seeing how the AI has been integrated into the HRISs. How does that make my job easier? And it was amazing. We were at Paylocity, so shout out to Paylocity for doing this. They were showing how announcements work, and they said, here, we'll give you an example. Office needs to be closed because of a snowstorm. Translate in Spanish is what it told the AI. Did it. Not a lot of prompts. I'm used to AI. If you think about it, you need a lot of prompts to get exactly what you want. Paylocity was instantly able to do that. And he's like, oh, and if you don't like it, give me another option or two. And it did. So to me, can you imagine if you're thinking about, you're not a communication specialist, you're not really good with your words, that you have AI to help assist with that and then get that message out to everybody quickly. So it's awesome. So we have a question for you. And so I know we have volunteers in the audience that are going to be bringing microphones to you, but what AI software are you using at your organization?
And we'll stare at you until
you
answer.
we got a hand up here. Striped shirt. Raise that hand high. Oh. Technical difficulties.
Speaking of technology.
Hello? Okay.
Woo.
So I work at a logistics company, and I'm interning with them, doing a lot of recruitment. And I implemented this one platform called MetaViewer, which is basically if you use Outlook, you can record and transcribe if you're doing like an interview. But this is a little bit more advanced because you can also ask it questions like, hey, remind me how long they worked at the last company, and it'll like pull from the transcription all of the information, and you can ask it whatever. But it's just really helpful because you can also look at like what percentage the interviewer versus the interviewee was speaking. Oh. And so we talked to like the managers that it's like 80-20 because it should be more 50-50, we feel. So yes. That's what's been really helpful for us.
Awesome. That's and can cool. You tell us that app again?
MetaViewer.
MetaViewer. Did everybody write that down?
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. And I think that's one of the things great, especially for recruiting. So we have somebody on our team who, she's so great. She's wonderful, but she tells me all the time I'm the worst interviewer because she just loves chatting. So she's just chatting with them and they're chatting. And I'm like, no, talk about the job. So this would be good. It's a good tool. Yeah.
So we have someone right up front. Striped shirt.
On this side, yep.
Man, we got something with striped shirts today.
We're going to make you get more steps today.
If you got a striped shirt, you're in trouble. We're coming for you.
Hello.
Hi.
So I use one called Gamma.
Yeah.
To put I actually use it in conjunction with ChatGPT. I get it to do my transcripts and then plop it into Gamma, and it makes me a very nice PowerPoint in like 5 minutes instead of me spending half my day on a PowerPoint. So.
Right? And so do you feel like you're really savvy with PowerPoint?
I felt like I was, and now I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this comes up with way better things than I could. So.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
that's
really
awesome.
Neat. Yeah.
The reason why I ask is because we can think of AI as a way to help us in areas that we don't like. So you probably just heard me and Reagan, we don't like tasks. It's not our favorite thing. I have a Friday task day, and I even try to avoid my Fridays. So again, it's not my favorite thing to do, but if AI can help me do that and I can get more done, yay. My checklist is knocking it off. So thank you for sharing it. Anybody else out there? Oh, yes, we have someone right over here.
Thank you. I recently started using AI Notebook.
Mm-hmm.
I press record in a meeting, and it gives me all the beautiful meeting minutes in any style I want.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you feel like you edit it just a little bit, or it's pretty darn close to what you want?
It's pretty close.
Can you imagine how much time you're saving?
And I love it, too, that when you use these on some of the platforms where you're doing video meetings, I love that it goes, Reagan said, Katie said, Amy said, right? So when we're on meetings, it tells us who was talking. I love that. It's so helpful in the meeting notes. Then when you're having those meeting notes taken, you're in the meeting. You don't have to worry about doing that the whole time. Yeah.
All right, we'll take one more. Do we have, we got one right up front. Oh, the name of the last one was AI Notebook. The first one. Oh, the first one.
MetaViewer. Yeah.
All right, and we got one right up in front for another audience member that wants to tell us another software they're using in AI. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
So one that I use is called Echo, and it records your meetings and transcribes it from the topics that were discussed, the actionables, the summary, all within less than 60 seconds. Now, naturally, it can be controversial. You're recording meetings. So long as you advise the group, I'm going to record this meeting. It doesn't save the physical recordings. You're not recording the words of the actual meeting, but it's
The note.
transcribing everything. So typically, those meetings, you write the summary, you email it out. It saves you significant time.
So everybody that's talked has talked about these are game changers for you. Would you say that this is a game changer for you?
Oh yeah, especially when you have recurring meetings like weekly department meetings or meetings regarding a specific topic, whatever the case is. It's just tell the group, hey, I'm gonna record this real quick, as we go through it, and then send everyone the summary of it, and it's just easy tracking.
And I feel more present, right? Like I'm able to pay attention more and be focused on what people are saying because I'm not trying to type everything that they're telling me.
Or that it's taking notes for the meeting about the meeting. So maybe we can get rid of that meeting that's about the meeting.
So,
They just want
Yeah.
the last one was Echo. I had a couple people ask.
oh, perfect.
Thanks.
See, I love this. We're collaborating. Okay, I am a geek. I geek out on what's going on in the workforce. I'm one of those people that follows the economy because I think it impacts our jobs and what we do. And if we're in HR, we should know these things. The other piece that I really love about AI is I didn't go to school for HR. I went to school for law enforcement. They don't teach you how to do pivot tables, Excel stuff. So that is a little bit of my weakness. But what I do really love is I love storytelling with data because I think that's very important in the role of HR. And so what I love about AI is it's able to help me in an area that I'm not strong in. So AI is going to get to a point where it's going to be able to do predictive modeling. Anybody here at their organization already doing predictive modeling with their employees? Okay, I might come for you back there in a little bit. It's gonna come. I worked at an organization during 2020, and they were able to take 3 different data points, and they were able to figure out if someone's gonna leave the organization. It was 95% accurate. How did they do that? They ended up reaching out and saying, hey, is anybody willing to try this in your area? And we had a group volunteer, and we built out a formula saying that, let's look at engagement scores within that department, let's look at the turnover, and let's look at the amount of PTO that's being used and when it's not used. And between those 3, we were able to do predictive modeling to see if someone was leaving the organization, 95% accurate. Wouldn't that be amazing from a succession planning standpoint if we knew something that was gonna happen before it happens or prevent it from happening? Because I don't know about you, but I feel like since 2020 has happened, we're very reactive versus proactive.
The other thing, Katie, on that one, as you're talking, I'm thinking about this from the recruiting aspect. A lot of times what happens is someone leaves, we didn't know, we weren't prepared, and everyone goes in panic mode. They give 2 weeks notice, find somebody in 2 weeks, we put pressure on it. If we're paying attention to that up front, the lead time we can give our recruiting departments and our team or those people you outsource to, super helpful. And it allows us then to be ahead of the curve instead of behind the ball.
Well, what we did in this case that I was giving you, we showed the managers and we asked the managers, what are you doing about it, right? Now that you have this data, how are you utilizing it with your team? You can predict if someone's gonna be burnt out if 5 people on their team quit, so half their team quit, right? Who's taking on those 5 people's roles? The people that are still there. So again, there's an opportunity that AI is gonna be able to do that quicker for us, and you're starting to slowly see that within the HRISs with integration. The other piece that's really cool is we're able to do those transferable skills that Reagan was just talking about earlier. So if we're able to see people's skill set that they have in the certifications, we can build career paths where we can take someone from one area and put them in another area because we believe it's transferable. So I'll give you an example. I just told you I went to school for law enforcement, yet I'm in HR. So I needed an internship. I went to Western Illinois, and in order to graduate, you needed this internship. And I thought I was gonna do it at a police department, right? That would make sense. And I ended up having Walgreens reach out to me and ask would I be interested in doing loss prevention manager. What the heck is that? Well, it turns out that's them looking at profit and loss at organizations or their stores that they had. And they also handled employee relation investigations. So that's kind of where my door opened. And what I found is there's a lot of transferable skills when I look at my career, and it started with me doing that loss prevention role as an intern. See, with those employee relation cases, which I know some of you in the room handle employee relation cases, we figure out the who, what, when, where, how, why, right? We're curious. Well, curiosity works really well in my job today. I'm an HR consultant. I get to have client calls. So it's amazing if we can figure out that for our employees where the thread is common and where they can go to other places. We've seen really good Fortune 500 companies take their executives and rotate them every 9 months into a new division. Can you imagine if you're like a marketing person, you've only done marketing your entire life? We're throwing you in HR, good luck. See how you do 9 months from now and we'll come back to you. But what they found is that when you think about it as the transferable skills, they don't need to be the expert in that division, right? They just need to know how to build people, lead them, be curious. And so again, how can we do that for our workforce, to our employees, to our leaders, that we get a little creative here with the transferable skills. And with AI, we're able to track those pieces within our HRIS or whatever system that you're using, that you might see a pattern that no one else saw that we can utilize for our employees and build out those careers. Because here's the thing, Reagan just told you, people want to grow, they want to learn. And some of that means that they might want to leave a department that they're in and go into somewhere new. So how do we expose them to that? But let's talk about the not great stuff.
Thanks, Katie. This is my turn. So some of the things with AI, some of these things we have to be careful of, right? The ethical challenges. We need to remember, we are the people that created AI. So inherently the biases that we have can be in those AI platforms. We talked this top one, the biases. That's what I said in job descriptions. Would love to remove that language. So historically, job descriptions in HR have had very female language. It's very driven in our industry. There's a lot of women that are in it, and it used to be. This is shifting, great. Another one is engineers. That language was very male-driven language. So that's who they're getting. So we need to be careful, and we need to pay attention to this. So, there are companies that have used recruitment tools for AI, the AI tools for recruitment. And what they found was the historical data, the people who'd applied for the position were all men. And so it had a bias that they would reject women because it said, wait, a qualification is male, and it's not. So that's one thing you have to watch out for. And then we also need to be careful about discrimination. So systems can be set up if that has happened within the company and there's people not getting promoted, that's not been the traditional thing that's happening, that goes into a performance management system and someone may be dinged for that. There's a bias that can be built into that. And then lack of accountability. I didn't do it, AI did it. But you built it. But it's not clear. Katie's got a couple good stories about this.
I love looking at history and being able to storytell and learn that lesson from it. And so Amazon was one of the first companies that started to use AI, and they first started to use it in their recruiting process. And what they did is when they were putting the data in the system, they were using information that was over a decade old. Well, if you look at stats of a decade old, there were more men in the workforce than women. So what they found is when they were screening out women was because of the data that was put in to set the baseline, right? It didn't work. The other piece is IBM Watson for oncology ended up wanting to use AI to be better at helping diagnose. But you guys know healthcare moves pretty quickly, right? New medicine comes out, new treatments come out. AI was misdiagnosing because they were using old practices when it came to medicine and treatment. So again, there's good with AI, but it has to be monitored, it has to be audited. Because if it's not, these are the lawsuits that we've seen so far right now that have come out since AI in the last 18 months has really come into this workforce. Mm-hmm. So just keep this in mind. If you're gonna do it, think about these buckets and make sure that we're not falling into them. And again, it's not like HR is gonna be building AI, right? We're gonna either be using a software, either gonna be using our IT or development team to create that. So how do we collaborate with them to make sure that it's continuously monitored, that we update it when we have new information, so that it continues to help us at the level that we need it to?
So embracing disruption beyond COVID. Has anything changed in the last 5 or so years? She said, maybe a little bit.
I can't have fun with this slide. I just wanted to reflect a little bit on what's taking place. Because I'll tell you right now, I feel like we're like teachers. Teachers got really burnt out during COVID. They were leaving by the masses. And I'll be honest with you, I've had some friends, I've had some of my networks that are like, I'm done with HR. I no longer feel that purpose. I am no longer seeing that joy. And I was like, I wonder why they're feeling that way. And it hit me. We've gone through a heck of a lot. Every year we've had certain things that have happened that have really had some massive impact on us in HR. So if we think about it from those realms, a couple years ago, there was only a few states that had state leaves. I live in Illinois. We're a wannabe California. So everything that passes in California passes through Illinois, usually about a year to 18 months later. But this is fascinating to me. Alaska just had leave go today. State leave just started for Alaska. We're seeing states that it doesn't matter if it's a Democratic state or a Republican state saying that we're gonna get this to our people in this state because everybody should be able to take a leave and it should be a paid leave. All of them look different, but let me tell you, I told you I started off in employee relations 20 years ago, and I was able to keep up with all the law. I was able to keep up with the 50 states. But when it comes to these, has anybody else just like had a headache thinking about leave management and the different states that you support? I see some head shakes. Yeah, Minnesota having 3 tiers for salary? What's up with that? How am I gonna track that in an HR system so that I can make sure that my people are paid correctly? I'm not overpaying, I'm not underpaying, and they're not freaking out as the employee if they're getting a paycheck or not? It is hard to do the job we do. And so the point is, how do we use technology? How do we use our resources that we have to feel more comfortable if we know it's gonna keep getting more complex? Because this is, at the end of 2025, 21 states. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be more in 2026.
Mind matters, back in my world here, where I love this stuff. So when we talk about this and how can we nurture mental well-being, mental health for our team, what are some of the things that we can do? Mental health days, paid leave, flexible work arrangements, some of those things. These mental health apps, Mindful, there's some really cool apps that are out there that are, free for us to utilize, but not everybody knows about them. I've been in meetings before and I'm like, oh, I have this meditation app, and 6 people will go, what is it? Which one? So just making them available and at the forefront, and again, removing the taboo of some of this. Creating supportive work environments, open dialogue, paying attention. So, I never want to camera off shame anybody, but if someone's always on their camera and then they're not on their camera anymore, as leaders, pay attention and ask why. Are you good? Things okay? Do you need anything? Just checking in and letting them know that you care. There's some other innovative ideas and things that we talk about, some of these programs. Mental health first aid training, that's gonna go back to my master's in social work. Really helping people understand what that is and what signs to look out for and pay attention to. Because we all didn't go to school for that, so we all aren't informed about it, and we're not all experts in everything. So making that readily available a program that they can use. One of the things I love about MMA where we work is they give us these summer hours that we get to take extra time off in the summer months. You want to talk about a mental health day, it's amazing because it's like right at that moment when you need it. The summer's hot. I live in humid Kentucky. It gets up to 110 degrees with the humidity. I'm already burnt out. I need a minute. And it's nice to know that my company knows that we need those kind of breaks. They also do a mental health day. It's on my calendar, January 1st. It's later on in the year. It's there. I didn't even have to think about it. And I know I've got it coming, and it's like a gift. And Katie's got a little more experience because she's much more involved in this than I am, but tell them about that, what we were talking about earlier today.
So we do Zen Week. It's in May, and we have all kinds of different topics that we hear from our workforce about what they're interested in. And I'm at this really funky stage in life where I am in the sandwich generation, where I have a mother-in-law that has bad dementia, and she's in at-home hospice, and then I have an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old. And just to top it off, we split between 2 households, one in Illinois, one in Indiana, in order for me to take care of my mother-in-law. And I've never experienced that before. And so it was interesting with Zen Week this week, we talked about generations being caregivers for older and younger folks and how to mentally handle that, because this is new to me and it's tough. Like, I thought kids were tough. older people can be tougher. It's really difficult, and it's a mental load for me. The other piece that I was really fascinated about is we had another topic that people asked for about grief. That's a taboo topic. You really don't talk about grief. But we had someone come on that specializes in it, gave us ways to say it's okay when you have those moments, because grief kind of hits at weird times, right? Like, I watched a Hallmark commercial, and it hit me hard.
Did you cry?
I did. I did. I don't know what it was, but it hit, and that's how grief works. It hits at strange times, and you don't know.
Yep.
So again, I thought the Zen Week was something really cool that the Wellness Committee put on to really meet people where they're at and talk about some tough topics and give guidance and say it's okay to feel that way. Where 10, 15 years ago, I don't think we'd ever would have said that. So the other piece that I really love is being on internal HR a few years ago. I would be the one that would look at that EAP report, that Employee Assistance Program, and you see the utilization, but I've never used it. But it was really interesting. 10 years ago, I found out my dad got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. 2 weeks later, my husband says, I'm leaving you. We're getting divorced. I called EAP for the first time in my life and used it as a user because I was lost. Just want to say my dad is still alive. He's in remission.
We'll clap on that one.
But EAP was so helpful for me to know that they could do that. They even helped my sister move from Florida all the way back home when we found out that my dad had cancer. They were able to give her trucking companies to use. And so I know it's really personal to share some of those stories, but man, when I've shared those stories with other people about our EAP, they've used it. I've had one friend that used it for a vacation, planned out 3 vacations in the Caribbean and what they cost. EAP was able to do that. So again, like, we have these great resources, but we don't really talk about them. So how do we bring it to the front and think about the communication and the behavior change that we want from our people, that they are utilizing the resources that exist?
So we talk a little bit about changes that have happened. We saw the little roadmap of the last 5 years, and we see all the things that happened. And change is going to continue to happen. It's inevitable. We're going to continue to have these things. So what do we need to be? What can we do? We can be adaptable. We can be agile. We can make sure that we're paying attention. We can use data analytics. We can really focus on the employee well-being and engagement piece. And then when we do these things, so we talked about this too, like from the benefits perspective, all these generations that are in the workforce right now, we all need different things. So I'm at the other side of where Katie is right now. I have the 2 adult children. My new children are my corgis. So what's important to me now is pet insurance. My last one's gonna get off my insurance soon. So I got the oldest one off. I'm waiting for my last one to roll off of it. And then there are things that now are important to me that weren't important to me before. And if we pay attention to this as HR folks and what we're getting, that data analytics, what we talked about, that information can help us make sure we have the right offerings for these changes that are happening in not just the world, but within our own little bubbles in our companies, right? So when we look at that, the benefits, and we say, who's using it? What were they using? Do we need to continue this program, or can we discontinue this? What's the utilization? Let's get the data analytics, let's make the shift, and make sure that we're reaching everyone, and we're communicating those things. I think that's another really big piece about this. Yeah?
Yeah, the storytelling with data.
Yeah. Data geek. We don't necessarily like putting the Excel spreadsheets together like we talked about, but we love the information because it helps us tell a story. And then when we have that story and we've looked at these analytics, we get to go back to our senior leadership team and say, here's the proof. This is what we have. This is what we're seeing. Here's our case, and let's move forward with doing something about it. It allows those people that aren't the HR folks in the room to see the data and understand the impact in business that it has.
So if we know we have to be agile, we got to be good at change management. And I don't know about you, but I didn't know when I got into HR and then COVID happened that I'm now the change management expert, right? Didn't know. And so what I've seen is that we do a really nice job in HR about getting that policy written, that project done, that initiative going. And sometimes we forget about the change aspect, right? I did it, it's done, on to the next. But if we really want to think about the behavior changes that we want, these are some of the areas we got to think about. And it's those vehicles of communication. It's about monitoring. Are you getting the behaviors that you want with how you rolled out this policy? Are we seeing that? And then, okay, I know you can picture this person in your mind. Do you have a naysayer at your work? Yeah? Can you picture them right now? Anytime you're about to do something, a policy, do an initiative, performance reviews, they are the naysayer that's like, why? Well, what if we can think about when we're about to do an initiative, a change of some type, bringing those naysayers on the ride with us? So a few years ago, when it was really hot to do non-traditional performance reviews, my organization jumped on that bandwagon, and that was my initiative for that year. And so our initiative was called DNA Performance. And I work at a somewhat sales organization. And the sales teams were saying they're not doing this. This is a waste of their time. I got better things to do. And so it was interesting. We took a really different approach where we started crowdsourcing when we first started saying, we're changing the performance review. We're throwing it out the window. We want to hear what you guys have to say about it. And so throughout the whole phase of building this out, it took about 9 months to do, we had check-ins throughout it that we were gathering feedback. And those naysayers actually turned into my change management agents that were promoting it. And the other piece is every time we got feedback, we would tell them, hey, we're doing a 1.5 version now. We're moving to that phase. And people loved it because they felt heard. And it goes back to that change management. If we think about all the different vehicles of communication, if we think about the why and bringing people on the journey, we're probably going to have a better chance of having the outcome that we want with the behavior change. So even if you have something small, try to bring people on that journey with you. It's going to help because instead of them feeling like every day HR is doing something different that I don't want them to do, they might have a different approach or a different thought about it if they're part of the journey.
And that's such a great segue into, we'll talk about here, work without boundaries. It's getting that buy-in. So when you talk about work without boundaries, what does that look like? Anyone who has anything to do with the recruiting aspect is, you'll help if I can hire fully remote. If you say I can't, that can change who I'm getting in the company. Okay, do you want to move to the next one?
Yes.
Sorry, yeah. It can change what our candidate pool looks like. If there's no flexibility, if it's rigid, it may change the pool. I'm not saying to do it or not do it. I'm just saying it can change it. There are people who want to be in the office. That is happening. I found it really interesting that, again, my kiddos are that generation, they're Gen Z. And so listening to them talk, they don't care to go into the office. They're fine. They're connected. They're learning. They get people with all of this knowledge that they're learning from. They love it. They get a day to work from home. It actually just shifted. They're getting 2. You would have thought it was a holiday. Like they are like forever excited for the rest of the year. So moving forward, now they work 2 days from home. I mean, the joy it brought them. It was really cool to see, but they don't mind going in. So it's fine if you're going to go back to it. So we're maybe moving back into that return to work. But let's not say on Friday, oh my gosh, have a good weekend. We start full-time back in the office Monday. Okay, so let's not do that. We need to edge this back in slowly. There's ways to do it. You know, the other side of it is, and we've talked about this, sometimes the directive comes from above and you're starting back on Monday. So then we have to figure out how we're going to say that. But if we use data and we figure out what that really looks like and is beneficial and we take that to the leadership team and say, great idea, love it, we'll get there. Listen to me for a second. Maybe we approach it this way and we start doing things in small bites and we clearly communicate it. And we have a supportive environment. So those are the things we need to pay attention to. So otherwise, working from home, I think one of the things that we also realized is that people got used to that and they liked it. They want a little bit of it. It doesn't have to be all of it. But there's a loss of work-life balance when you work from home. If anyone works from home the majority of the time, you may get this. I work from home almost all the time. And I've said this before. I realize I get up, grab a cup of coffee, sit down, just check emails first, and then I'm going to get ready. And then I realize I've been sitting there for 3 hours because I haven't had a call and I'm just working, right? And I'm like, oh, I might want to put real clothes on and start really working, right? So then I may go do something and then I come back and then I sit at the desk again and then I go, oh, it's 2. Oh, I didn't eat anything. So then I get up to eat something, right? Then I'm sitting there and one of my kiddos moved back in with me. They just graduated from college. Woo, got that over with. So they just graduated. They moved back in with me. And she's like, Mom, it's 7:30. I had been sitting there from 7 to 7:30. I didn't take the dogs out. I didn't breathe fresh air. I didn't even think about it, but I was so into what I was doing. So let's make sure, too, that We understand some people want that break to come back into the office, and it's okay, so it's not terrible. But let's make sure that we're recognizing that. We're recognizing wellness initiatives, and we're encouraging time off. You know, one of the things I love about Amy, who I said is here, our boss that's here, she is like, take the time. Don't worry about it. Or she'll send an email, do not answer, right? Or doesn't send it, schedule sends it so it comes in the next week. Those are valuable pieces for us. And as long as we remember that, we can get back to a return to work if that's what our companies want.
So I think some of the spark that we've lost over the last couple of years has been curiosity and that innovation piece. I think because we've been so reactive to some of the scenarios that we've been dealing with, that joy of being creative isn't there. So if we think about how we are wired as humans, humans like creativity. And I know there might be some people in the audience going, I'm not creative at all. But you might be in a different way that you don't even realize, that you need to have that spark. And so if we look at how academia works, I teach at Valpo University, I teach an HR master's class for administrators that are going into healthcare. And it's always interesting to me is they just want to know the concepts versus having the discussion, right? They just want to know the information. They want to go, and I'm like, whoa, we got to get more curious here. And the piece that we've seen is just since elementary school all the way into college, you're told a concept, a formula, you're supposed to memorize stuff, and then that's how you do great on tests. There's gotta be more exposure to the creativity for us, like we did in elementary school when you had art class. So to me, like, building these PowerPoints is my creativity. I find joy doing it. It's my way of storytelling. So if we had to think about it as an HR group, how we can be more creative, how do we have that outlet? And we're going to talk about that in a minute, but I want to talk about organizations that were not innovative. This is what, like I told you, I like history. I like seeing the lessons that you can learn from other organizations. BlackBerry had the perfect opportunity to add email. The CEO of the organization at the time said, why would anybody want to check email on their phone? Let Apple do that iPhone. No one's going to want that. Blockbuster had a perfect opportunity to buy Netflix for a very reasonable price. And they said, why would anybody want DVDs sent to their home? Like, people love coming into Blockbuster. It's the experience. Toys R Us didn't want to do online. Toys R Us said, people want to come into toy stores. There's no reason why anybody would want to do that. And the interesting part is they ended up at the last minute working with Amazon, but at that point it was way too late for them. And then Kodak. Kodak could have done digital prints. There was several leaders that came and said, this is what we should do. I think this is the future. And the executive leadership said, there's no way anybody's going to want to look at pictures anywhere but in their hands physically. Yeah, right? It's crazy. But how do we learn from that? Like, how do we learn to not be these organizations? And the piece that I think that's there is piloting. So I talk about this with Reagan all the time. She probably thinks that
It's her favorite word, I've decided. We'll say something and Katie's like, we should pilot it. I'm like, yes.
Well, because if you pilot it, you don't have to have it perfect, right? You're just testing it. So I told you guys about how we use the predictive data to figure out if people were leaving an organization and we were 95% accurate. That was a pilot. That was us just messing around with some data and saying, wouldn't it be cool if we could figure out if someone was going to leave without them telling us they're going to leave based on the data that we already collect? And so the thing is, it's working, it's low cost, right? So even when you go to your executives and like, we have no budget for that, can't do that. You can if it's a pilot. And the cool part is you can do a phased approach. So we learn lessons every time we have a pilot. If it fails, I still learn lessons from it. And that helps me with the next thing that I'm about to work on. So to me, like, my curiosity makes me get excited for doing pilots and testing things, right? It's like thinking like a scientist. I have a hypothesis, I'm gonna see what happens, and then I'm gonna adjust based on the information that I'm finding. So we do wanna open it, oh, actually, Reagan, I know you wanted to mention something on this too.
Yeah, so I worked for a company called Yum Brands, and you may not know the corporate, but you may know their brands that they own, KFC, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell. They were great about listening, paying attention, data analytics. I loved all of that about them. And they realized they would lose people at about the 5-year mark. So we kind of looked into it, and why is that happening? So I'm not sure how many of you know this, but throughout someone's career, they will change actual career paths completely. And just in your head, unless you know the answer, how many times do you think people change careers in their lifetime? Average is 6, right? 5 to 7 times now, that's what's happening. Gone are the days of my dad, and it blows my dad's mind. He worked for the same company for 45 years. He only worked for 2 companies his entire life. When he graduated from high school, he worked somewhere, and then he got his big kid job, and he stayed there for 45 years. So when someone leaves, he's like, he hates it, right? But that's his generation. That's what he grew up with. That's what he knew. Things are changing. So what we said at Yum was, how do we keep these people? If they change careers, what do we need to do? So a lot of companies have internships, right? You know about that. People come in, they learn from us. We're so great. We want you to work here. We said, hey, what if we did internalships where we took our own team members and said for 30 days every year, you have the choice, 30 days in a year, that you can go choose to work in another department. Those transferable skills we talked about, upskilling and transferable skills. We also asked all of our managers to pay attention to your team, and if you see them getting frustrated or burned out and you know there's a skill they have that might transfer somewhere else, let's foster that. Like, let's see what this does. So we piloted it. They ended up adopting it. And when I started there, my boss was the VP of talent acquisition, and she had been at the company when I was with her for 17 years. She started out in finance. And the reason why she was there 17 years later is because of this exact thing, is that they were allowing this to happen. So she gets to change careers, and I think she's moving again. I just saw a LinkedIn update. She gets to change careers within her own organization. Not all of us are big enough to do that, but it's that kind of thinking about the big picture and what can we do to be creative. Go back to those days when, why not? Like when you were a little kid, every little kid will go, why can't I? So it's that sort of mentality around this, and they were super successful with it.
So we want to open it up to you. Like, when do your best ideas hit you?
They hit me when I'm outside walking.
Mine's in the shower where it's like a dry erase board, right?
The shower.
Yeah, but we want to open it up to you. We want to share these ideas of when you have that spark come to you, because that might resonate with someone else in the audience. And we want to get that curiosity and that innovation out of you. So is there anybody that can share? Yes, right down here.
You can
Is that another
shout it out,
striped
maybe.
shirt? We're bringing it to you.
Hello. Okay.
Hi.
So ideas hit me most when I'm doing dishes.
Dishes,
Yeah,
nice.
I don't know what it is. I'm like, that's just my thinking time of just kind of like hands to something and hands in water, moving back and forth, and
Yep.
Not to get deep with it, but so,
No. Hey, there is psychology behind that. So I've got
Yeah.
a little tidbit, interestingly enough, about that. There is something about, there is a psychological tool that we use in therapy, and it's called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's EMDR. And there is something about our brains that when we look from one side to the other and we're moving, so when you're doing this and your repetitiveness and you're washing and you're rinsing and you're putting up to dry, it will open up your brain to start thinking in a different way. So it's so interesting you said that, because that's an actual thing that happens for people.
that makes sense. I'm going to use that for my wife because she's always telling me just to put them in a dishwasher. And I'm like, hey, it's kinda
You're like, I'm thinking of great ideas.
I was like, I wanted a session, and she said that.
Who else out there? Where do you get your ideas from? Oh, we got one in the front and we got one in the back. Let's
Over
go
at
back
this side.
and then front. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Thanks, Pam.
Tends to be when I'm out taking a run.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. Right up here. And then Pam, we got one in the back.
It happens to me when I'm in the shower.
In the shower.
Yeah.
Is that like quiet time? Is that one only time everybody leaves you alone? Is when you're in the shower?
I like to be alone at that time, yeah. And then I let the water, run a lot.
Yes.
Relax
Open your
it.
mind. I love it.
All right, in the back.
Yep, and so for me, at nighttime, when I've woosah'd, I've already put boundaries around myself. Do not call my house after 8 o'clock because I'm not going to talk to you unless I'm already on the phone. So I'm doing downtime for myself. I'm reevaluating my day, and I'm just laying there like, okay. And then different things come to me at that point.
Awesome. Thank you
Yeah,
for
I
sharing.
love it.
Anybody else? Oh, we got one right up front.
And there's another one over here too,
Okay.
Margaret. Go ahead.
It's when actually I'm playing with my kids, because then I get invited into their creative process, and then I lower the expectations, and I actually unlock a lot of great ideas.
Oh yeah, like playing with Play-Doh. I know I used to have ideas when my kids were into Play-Doh. We got one more back here, and then I swear we'll be done. Who was it?
Yeah, it's me.
All right.
I actually get ideas after leaving work and I'm just driving because I'm on autopilot. So I know my route, right? So I don't really have to think about where I'm going. I just kind of go and think because it's the end of the day, so.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Again,
thanks,
you
everybody.
just heard a couple different ideas, so how do you figure it out into your day that you allow some space to do that?
Okay, so getting into the childlike mode, there's adult color books. I have those. Sometimes I will just stop what I'm doing and I'm like, I'm gonna color. I just need to not do anything for a minute, but that's great. And take those things into your world at work too, whatever it is that allows you to be creative, right? And think differently.
Yeah, so I hit a button.
Oh, and it went sideways. Awesome.
And that button just did not work in our favor.
That's all right. We're at the key takeaways. We're at the end here. So some of the key takeaways we just want to say, communicate often. It's so important in different avenues in different ways. Touch everyone and how they're going to hear it from you. I think if you can do that, look at your generational workforce. Integration of AI, if you can do it, do it. Even if it's outside of work, learn, teach, educate yourself around that. We think it's so important. My soapbox, prioritize that well-being. Take care of your people. Shift toward a flexible work model if you can. Strategically watch the workforce trends. Data. That's our story. That's where we get our stories from. That's how we know what we need to know, is collecting that data. Find time for innovation and creativity. Get a coloring book. Doesn't have to be an adult one. They're tough sometimes. And then Katie's favorite word, pilot ideas. That's what's going to be a big game changer for you guys.
So we'll open it up for questions. And then if you want to stay connected to us, this is our LinkedIn, so you can scan them. And our contact info in case you have any feedback or you have any questions for us.
Yeah. And again, thank you so much for taking time out of this conference to be with us today. We really appreciate it. You guys are great. Thanks.
Thank you. If there's no questions, we'll just hang around. You feel free to come on up.
Thank you, Katie and Reagan, for such an insightful session. Before you go, please remember to complete the session survey, whether you're here in person or joining us virtually. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to us. Thank you again for your participation, and we look forward to seeing you at future sessions.